Hello and welcome to the mid-January edition of IndyStar High School Hoops Weekly. I am IndyStar Sports Editor Matt Glenesk. He is Mr. Do-It-All, Kyle Neddenriep, our high school sports insider. And then all the way to the other end of this desk is girls high school basketball insider, Matthew VanTryon. How we doing, fellas?
Real good.
Good, all right. Well, so let's just hop right into it. Well, again, we'll give you the rundown of the show. Both these guys will give you the things they took away from this past week that stuck out to them. You can go to IndyStar.com/sports for their full columns on that. Then we will show you highlights of the game of the week. This week it was Lawrence North boys versus Warren Central. Heck of a game. Then they will unveil their updated Fab 15s, and then we have a special little treat for you at the end of the show, Dunk of the Week. We will hope to do this every week, but this dunk was just too good not to show you, so we're going to show it to you anyway. Or we're going to show it to you. All right, so Kyle, what did you learn this past week?
Well, I think starting off with, I wrote a little bit about this in our 5 things we learned this week, but Tony Perkins off to a tremendous start for Lawrence North. Has definitely put himself in the Mr. Basketball running if he wasn't already. The Iowa commit, through 10 games, Ellen's 10-0. He's the reason why, and it's not just shooting, it's not, just the points he's putting up. He's just super efficient. He's a leader. He's rebounding. He's getting assists, steals. He fills up every category, every game. He's an emotional leader. And he's just been that guy for LN so far this season. I don't know if anybody through 10 games is having a better season than Tony Perkins is. Whether that continues, I think it probably will, and I think LN might have to win a sectional and do some things in the tournament. But I think he's putting himself in that mix. I think it's too early to run down all the candidates just yet in boys basketball.
Just 10 games into the season?
But I think he's getting himself there. That's the point, and he's doing a great job for that team so far.
And he was a player that, when he committed to Iowa, might have raised a few eyebrows because he hadn't gotten that much major conference attention at the time. And then you see what Fran McCaffrey and that Iowa staff has seen in him. They have to like what they've seen.
They got in early, and Ball State had offered him, and that kind of looked like where he might end up. And then Iowa comes in, he takes his visit there, and it all worked out. I think for both parties, they're obviously getting a really good player.
It's weird that Iowa gets a basketball player from the state, not a football player.
They do great in football, too.
Yeah, they clean up in football. All right, what else did you learn?
Also, the county tournaments are kind of getting going now. We saw the Hendricks County tournament this week. Really good county basketball this year in Hendricks County, and Plainfield and Brownsburg played for the title. Really good game. Plainfield battling for 3 quarters. Brownsburg without Malik Edmonds able to get it done at Tri-West, and I was out there Thursday night, saw Danville and Plainfield. Really impressed with that Plainfield team. They've got about 7 guys who can all score 15 points. They average, I think their high scorer only averages about 11 per game. But about anybody can step up. Talked to Andy Weaver, the Plainfield coach, about that, and he really likes this group. Really unselfish and tough team. But Brownsburg gets it done, 3rd year in a row. Hendricks County title. Danville's also a really good team in the county, and Avon, very talented as well, if they can put it all together, which they haven't quite done yet this season. But Brownsburg gets it done. Then the county, Johnson County will be really interesting this week. We get Greenwood Christian's a team that could play the spoiler there. Johnny Marlin's team, the former Center Grove guard. Would be really fun to see them play Center Grove in the championship game Saturday night down in Johnson County. And then, of course, the Marion County tournament. Hopefully by now, as you watch this, I'll have my Marion County preview done. I'm hoping you're hoping the same.
Yeah, and IndyStar's sports.
Exactly, and the Marion County is always a great time of year. Probably my favorite tournament to cover. They're just great action. The Friday night at Southport, one of the best nights of the season.
The semifinals back to back.
Exactly, you get 2 for 1. I wish they would have the 2 games at each site for first round and quarterfinals. They used to do that, but they've gone to 1 game per site. But regardless, it's a great tournament. Doug Mitchell from North Central, the former North Central coach, used to say this is as tough to win this tournament as it is to win a state title, and it's hard to argue with that with all the talent in the county. Lawrence North hasn't won a county since 2008, which is hard to believe with the talent they've had. So they'll be the favorite, but LC also, I think, is going to have a lot to say about that. Pike, Warren Central, goes on and on. Should be a great week of basketball.
All right, Matthew, what did you learn this week in girls basketball?
So the 2 things that were kind of the surprise this week were on Saturday. Lawrence North and Fishers both lost. They were both undefeated coming into Saturday, both woke up Sunday with a loss on their record. The Lawrence North loss was at Homestead. That loss wasn't a total surprise to me. There were a lot of comments on social media about the free throw disparity in that game. I think Homestead shot 15 free throws and Lawrence North didn't shoot any. So maybe that played a role in it.
Homestead didn't fail. That's the obvious what happened.
Right. And, Homestead's a really good team, and so losing on the road to them is certainly not a bad loss, even for a team, with the talent of Lawrence North. The Fishers loss to North Central was a little bit more puzzling. North Central's kind of been up and down this year, but they held Fishers to, I think, 29% shooting, which is by far a season low for Fishers. And we'll just kind of have to see whether this was an anomaly for Fishers or whether this was maybe the start of some issues for them. I'm leaning towards the former. I think that it was just kind of an off night for them, but we'll have to kind of watch them and see the rest of the way. They have a tough schedule the rest of the way, so we'll figure out pretty quickly just how good Fishers is. And then the Hendricks County tournament was also this week. Brownsburg won that tournament for the second straight year. That was a good tournament win for Brownsburg, not because they necessarily played the toughest opposition. They won 2 of those games very comfortably and beat Avon, I think, by 9 points in the first round. But just because they had come into that tournament, they had lost 4 in a row, and now they've won 4 in a row. So that's probably a good confidence builder for Brownsburg. They kind of showed their depth, which has been a strength all season. They showed their defense, which has been a strength. So that was good for them to kind of get back on track and kind of work themselves back into the conversation of, one of the better teams in the state. Obviously, the losses by Lawrence North and Fishers show that at least, in the area, there's not necessarily a dominant team, and so Brownsburg kind of worked their way back into the conversation of being a contender.
All right, well, I'll be interested to see where they rank in your updated Fab 15, but before we get to those, we're going to show you highlights of the game of the week last week. This was Lawrence North at Warren Central, a game that went into overtime, a game that Kyle covered. Clark Wade, our producer, brings us these awesome highlights. But Kyle, tell us a little bit about this game and the intensity that it had.
Yeah, really, Warren Central came out and just kind of punched him in the mouth from the beginning of the game, and they got a 14-point lead. Almost halftime, and then Tony Perkins banked in a 3 at the buzzer at halftime to cut it to 11. And I think at that point, Lawrence North kind of said, we got to play harder in the second half. Talking to Perkins and Shamari Vance after the game, they just said, they took it to us. I mean, honestly, in the first half, Warren played harder. Second half, Tony Perkins kind of took over in the third quarter. They got the game back to tied. I was most impressed with the way Warren responded in the fourth quarter. They came back and took a 6-point lead and just couldn't hold it. And there you see the bank from Perkins there at the halftime buzzer. And then third quarter, he just kind of went to work and showed why, talked at the top of the show about why he is a Mr. Basketball candidate, and he kind of showed why. But I was really impressed. Warren Central, I thought, just played their butts off and really did a nice job. They couldn't quite get it done, and really 6 for 18 from the free throw line. For a team that really shoots the free throws pretty well, that was the story. There you see Hunter Jackson. He played huge down the stretch in the fourth quarter for Warren. And, Malik Stanley's been great all year. I don't know if you've seen him in the highlights yet here, but he's been great for Warren, the junior guard. He was pretty much the only guy who had extensive playing time on that Warren Central team last year. And he's played great all year. And there you see DJ Hughes, yeah, who kind of had a little bit of an off game, but came up big late. And Lawrence North gets the win, stays undefeated, and, kind of wrote a little bit about this, but, you're number one, you're going to get everybody's best shot. They took a huge shot from Warren and kind of was able to survive that. And it was a good win. You can say they didn't come out ready to play, but by the end of the game, they kind of took over a little bit, and I think showed why they're the number one team in the state right now. And then Warren comes back and had a tough night on Saturday, kind of a little bit of a hangover, I think, from that loss. But HSC, a really good team, and took it to them.
All right. Well, now it's time for us to unveil the updated Fab 15 rankings. Matthew, we're going to start with you. Let's look at your Fab 15 and explain to us why you did what you did.
So, like we mentioned earlier, LN and Fishers both lose this week. They were 1-2 last week. I still think that Lawrence North is the best team in the state. I think that they have, or certainly the best team in the area. They have more talent than anybody else in the area, I think, top to bottom. But I knocked Fishers down a couple of spots there, and if you look at those spots 2, 3, 4, those teams are all in the same sectional: HSE, Carmel, and Fishers. And Carmel, we've touched on them quite a bit recently. They've won, I believe, 7 in a row now. They were 3-6 at one point. Now they're 10-6. They just keep winning. They beat Center Grove on Friday night, held Center Grove to, I believe, 35 points and scored, I think they're just the 6th team all year against Center Grove to score more than 40, so they're kind of getting it down on both ends. So that sectional 8 is just going to be absolutely brutal for really all 3 of those teams. North Central takes a pretty big jump. Like I've said, they've kind of been inconsistent this year, but to knock off Fishers on the road is certainly a solid win for them. And they're not going to be an easy out in that tournament. I know that Lawrence North has already beaten them twice this year, but they are 13-7. They've won 3 in a row now. So if they can kind of get on a solid roll here heading into the tournament, then I don't think that they're going to be a team that anyone wants to face. And then you look down there at number 10 with University. They still haven't lost this year. They're really just kind of dominating in all phases. Lindsay Sirik is having an absolutely phenomenal senior season. I think she's averaging a double-double, and they have some other players as well that have really stepped up. So it'll be interesting to see how long that carries over and whether that dominance can carry over into the tournament as well.
All right. Well, that is the girls Fab 15. It's not so easy to say.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, but let's see if I can do a better job on the boys Fab 15. Got it. Kyle, take it away, please.
Well, yeah, I'm going to start with number 2 there. You see Lawrence Central has been there since the loss to Lawrence North early in the season back in December. And this week we kind of get a chance to see if Lawrence Central can kind of get that back. Warren Central's won the last 2 Marion County championships. LC kind of, they showed last year they played Warren really tough in that championship game of the Marion County tournament. I think they're going to be plenty motivated to win the title this year, and we could see LC playing Lawrence North in the finals on Saturday night at Southport. Lawrence Central starts off not an easy game. They're at Brebeuf in the first round, and then the winner of that game would host either Roncalli or Southport. Roncalli's a team that's been coming on too, so not an easy route, but I think LC probably the favorite on their side of the bracket, and definitely Lawrence North on theirs too. So that's a matchup to look forward to potentially on Saturday night at Southport. Then jumping down to number 6, saw Fishers early in the week, and they took 2 losses this week. One of them to Lafayette Jeff in overtime, and then they came back and lost to Pike on Friday night. So two not terrible losses. Pike, they lost by 9 points. That game was tied going into the fourth quarter. So Fishers, talking to Matt Moore after the Lafayette Jeff game, they're still without Alex Zalaji and hoping to get him back. He's starting to practice with them a little bit. He was averaging 19, 20 points a game before he hurt his knee. He's not gonna keep him out the whole season, but he's been out for a while, so they've been playing without him. Really good sophomores on that Fishers team, so that's a team that's only going to get better. And I think they kind of knew, we're not going to be undefeated all year. So these 2 losses, I don't think the worst thing in the world for them. But I think a team that's still going to be really a team in once March comes and they're in that section with Carmel and HSE, they might be a slight favorite over Carmel. I guess we'll find out, but that's a team to watch, I think, as we move forward. And then moving on down to number 12, Franklin Central. That's a team that they're 8-2 right now, kind of flying under the radar a little bit. We know about their freshman Jalen Hooks, who's a really good player, obviously. They're going to be playing in the county this week. And Javon Small against Whiteland earlier this week almost had a triple-double, 22 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists in that win. So, they've got some good pieces, and I think Franklin Central will be a team to watch. They play at Perry Meridian in the first round on Tuesday night in the county. So they could be one of those sleeper-type teams who gets into Friday's semifinals and has a chance to play potentially for the title.
All right, well, now we are going to show you the dunk of the week, and because this guy won the long jump and the state title in track and field, I'm pretty sure we knew he can jump. Why don't you see just how high he can go? This is Pierce Thomas of Brownsburg. Yeah.
That was nice.
How high do you need to throw that off the backboard? Yeah, look at his head.
Just that high.
Oh,
and that's look at the Danville fan in
there.
The corner. I just couldn't believe it. Also mention Quentin Bragg, who threw that pass. If that ball goes over the backboard, I'm not sure Steve Lynch doesn't just end the game right there and take him into the locker room. But great play. I mean, that was fun to watch, and obviously Pierce, he's good for about one of those per game, it seems like. And like you said, he's a state long jump champion. He's probably could be do that in college as well. But he's always worth a good highlight. That was one of the best dunks I've ever seen from a high school player.
Speaking of college, the Butler coaches were there watching that game. Who else was there for him?
I'm not sure for that game, because that was a Cascade game, but he's had Butler's been in a lot for him, and he's already got an offer from them. He's a guy, wrote about this before the season. I think he's gonna be one of those guys who's gonna get some Big Ten offers, before it's all said and done. But Butler's been there for so long, you have to think that they're in a pretty good spot with him, and he's been over there for games. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago at the Southport event there. And I think he's got a pretty good read on what he wants to do, but I think some of those offers are still to come in for him.
Awesome, sounds great. Well, that is this week's episode of IndyStar High School Hoops Weekly. That is Matthew VanTryon at the end. This is Kyle Neddenriep. Thank you again for watching, and again, go to IndyStar.com/sports for all your high school sports needs.